looking out of the window, watching his little daughter play in the yard. This huge beast jumped the fence, attacked the daughter, and killed her. And the villagers decided that they would have nothing to do with the man who owned the daughter. They would surround him with silence. They would cut him off. They would isolate him. Not only would they do that, but they would not give him any grain with which to plant his field, so that in the absence of food, he and his wife, through the long winter night, would slowly starve to death. And then one night, the man who had lost his child got up, dressed, took a basket full of grain, climbed the fence, sowed the field, and he was so absorbed in what he was doing he didn't realize that his wife had joined him. And she said, "Why did you do this?" He said, standing on the promontory of existence, in the vast, limitless spaces of nature all around me, I felt an almighty responsibility. If there be no eyes in nature, if there be no heart in nature, I will be heart, I will be eyes. I planted my enemy's field with grain that God might exist. Somehow, I must be honored by the natural order. And not destroyed by it. I must sense the undertow of rhythm, so that all of my own consciousness is a manifestation of the consciousness of the order in which I am rooted and grounded. This may be, finally, the religious insight. And the tempter carried him to the pinnacle of the temple. And he said, "If you are the Son of God, jump. You will not get hurt. God will give his angels charge of you. They will bear you up on their wings, lest you dash your foot against a stone. There is no structure of dependability in life. There is no grounding in order and structure in existence. If you are smart enough to get the clue, for the world really is not orderly. This is what the tempter says. And the master replied, "Thou shalt not tempt God." I know that. Or he may have said, "Thou shalt not tempt God." Thou shalt not tempt God. To state it in terms of its implication, in a paraphrase, it would be something like this, that if I go up to the pinnacle of the temple and jump down, the great possibility is I will break my neck. Son of God, to the contrary, notwithstanding, because this is a world of order. And if I act as if I am not bound by that order, I can ignore that order, then the order itself destroys me. Thou shalt not tempt God. And all through the days and the months of the life of Jesus Christ, up to the final end, when in lucid moments, as he was dying on the cross, he heard as if there were voices coming across a stormy sea. If thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross. Come down. And I imagine in his mind, he said, I thought I had won that battle months and months and months ago, and here it is again. This is the great illusion. Of the good man. Somehow, because I have glimpsed God's face in a transcendent moment when he revealed himself, I can do as I please. I am not bound, rooted, grounded, planted, deposited, stayed in the order of existence. I'm over here. For it may be that that I can understand the order so thoroughly. I can be so skilled in knowledge concerning the way it operates. With my creative mind, I can brood over the stuff of nature until at last I can woo out of it its secrets and make these secrets become the vehicles of my mind and instruments in my hand for the affirming of my will. I may do this. And if I'm able to do this, then I transcend them. I'm not bound by them. My knowledge is my guarantee. My knowledge of the natural order is my insulation against the natural order. I have written somewhere about my doctor who illustrated this. I went to see him for the reasons that you go to a doctor, and he gave me my usual examination, and then he sent me to somebody to do this and that and the other, all the reports to be sent to him. And then the day came when I got the telephone call to come to see him. And there's always sort of churning inside when you sit in the chair and he has the manila folder. And he began looking at it, and then he'd look at me and nod his head and sort of grunt a little, and then at one point he took a report out and held it up, took it out of the folder and held it up and sort of knitted his brow and looked at me quickly and then looked back, and of course everything stopped for me at that moment. And then he finally nodded and put the report back. And then he closed it, and he said, you are in pretty good shape for your age. But he said, you are getting too heavy. And then he talked to me very learnedly about what the extra pounds were doing to my heart and all kinds of technical and scary things he talked about. And as he talked, I felt weaker and weaker. And then I looked at him. Now, he wasn't as tall as I am, and he weighed about 225 pounds. And then it occurred to me, he thought that his body knew that he was a doctor. His body did not know that he was a doctor. His body knew precisely what my body knew. It was storing up more caloric units than it was burning up. He thought that his knowledge of physiology, anatomy, pharmacology, all the rest of the discipline gave him an immunity against the relentless logic of reaping and sowing, the dynamics of the order, of the order, of the order. If I'm a good man, being as true to my light as I can in my blindness. If, with full orb consciousness, I have tried to respond to the gentle or the strong pulling of the Spirit of the living God, and if I have walked in the path which seems to stretch out before my eyes, then, unless I keep very close to Him, I will think that my goodness will cause life to make an exception in my case. No. There are the ways by which the Spirit of the living God may reassure and help, restore, calm, be quiet, stabilize, steady. But God does not violate His context. He causes the sun to shine on the good man and the bad man, the rain to fall on the just and the unjust. So much about this I do not understand. And all the rationalizations of my mind turn to ashes in my hand. Why is it that this is the kind of world in which the evil do prosper? I don't know. The only thing I do know is that my assignment as a creature, my endowment, better, as a creature cannot be separated from my endowment as a child of God. Though the fig tree may not blossom, though there be no fruit on the vine, though there be no cattle in the stall, nevertheless, says the prophet, I will rejoice in the Lord and glory the God of my salvation. I shall trust that I shall not be tempted into tempting God to destroy me, even as my nation is today. Think of it. Caught up with a good life in fertile valleys between two great oceans, blessed with the uniqueness of being launched as a land under the aegis of the most creative and significant interpretations of the meaning of human life and human history, grounded in a tradition that breathes with all the fragrance of the love of God. And we think that because of our favored position as a nation, we can do as we please. We are not bound by the order, the logic of reaping and sowing that binds the little people, the hungry people, the inarticulate, dumb people of the earth. Let them abide by the moral order. It's all they have. But we can transcend the order and defy the order. And in so doing, we tempt God to destroy us. If you do not believe it, ask Rome, ask Greece, ask the British Empire. Ask the story of your own life. If thou be the Son of God, nothing will happen to you life will make an exception in your case, even if you do violate the structure of dependability that provides the context in which the living God operates. It is written, don't do it. Don't tempt God. To destroy you. Our little systems have their day. They have their day and cease to be. They are but broken lights of thee. But thou, O Lord, art more than they. God causes his sun to shine on the good man and the bad man, his rain to fall on the just and the unjust. Jesus and the natural order. I'm reading a very significant passage from the African Genesis. It is, it is a fine expression of a dimension, a rather insightful dimension of natural religion. And the second thing that I should read is from The Inward Journey. I brought the wrong piece of paper. Man, I'm sorry. Man without God is a seed upon the wind. A tiny living thing awaiting its moment of fulfillment, caught up in the movement of tremendous energy, is at the mercy of forces that are not responsive to its own ends. There is a grand unconscious vitality unfolding with mounting energy its impersonal purpose. In the grip of something like this, what is a tiny seed? No more than a particle of dust, a nameless nothing. Here is the abandonment of all purpose, stark helplessness without mooring or anchor, the fact that there is locked within the seed a private world of pattern and design makes no difference to the fierce velocities that sweep it on its reckless and relentless way. Man without God is a seed upon the wind. He is a victim of the currents of life that carry him where they will, with a bland unmindfulness of purposes and ends which belong to him as a living, thinking, feeling creature. It means that such a man has no sense of center. He takes his clue to all meaning and values from the passing moment, the transitory event, the immediate issue of the day. He is at home nowhere because he is not at home somewhere. The Master speaks of this in his direct question, what would a man give in exchange for his soul? But there is a sense in which a man with God is a seed upon the wind. A man who has made the primary surrender, the commitment, the yielding of God at the core of his being. He is one who has relaxed his will to exercise and hold firm the initiative over his own life. And this does not come without exacting struggle of the soul. One by one, the outposts of his spirit are captured, retaken, and lost again through hours, months, even years of warfare, until at last the very citadel of his spirit is under siege, and he is subjected to an utter yielding. There follows often the long silence when nothing stirs, and then out of the quiet of his vanquished spirit something stirs, and a new life emerges that belongs more to God than to self. The movement now rests with purposes that are beyond the little purposes, with ends that transcend the private ends, the purposes and the ends of God. There is a sense in which a man with God is the seed upon the wind. there are miracles in the Spirit of which the world knows nothing. Such is the testimony that comes to us from the lips of George Fox. Our lives are surrounded day by day and night after eventful night by the stupendous revelations of what man is discovering about the world around him. Each day we seem to penetrate more deeply into the process of nature. Thousands of men and women with utter devotion give themselves to the pursuit of the secret disclosures from the chamber of mysteries of which they themselves are a part and from which they have come forth. It is as if there is a mighty collective and individual effort to remember what they were before the mind became mind and the body became flesh and blood. So successful has been the appropriation of the knowledge of the mysteries of air and wind and earth that what a decade ago would have startled and frightened the most matured adult is today taken for granted by the simplest child. We speak of going to the moon, not as denizens of the shadows, where unrealities tumble over one another in utter chaos. Rather, we speak of going to the moon and back again with voices that are brimming over with an arrogance that even a God could not command. But let one arise in our midst to speak of secrets of another kind. Let one say that the world of the Spirit has vast frontiers which call to us as our native heath. At once, the deep split in our spirits reveals itself. Out of the eyes, as we listen, there leaps the steady glow of recognition, while our lips speak of superstition and delusion. Can the miracles of the Spirit be real, true? Because they seem always to be personal and private, does this not add to their unreality? The miracles of the Spirit, what are they? The resolving of inner conflict upon which all the lances of the mind have splintered and fallen helplessly from the hand. The daring of the Spirit that puts to rout the evil deed and the decadent unfaith. The experiences of new purposes which give courage to the weak, hope to the despairing, life to those burdened by sin and failure. The quality of reverence that glows within the mind, illumining it with incentive to bring under the control of spirit all the boundless fruits of knowledge, the necessity for inner and outer peace as the meaning of all man's striving, the discovery that the covenant of brotherhood is the witness of the work of the Spirit of God in the life of man, and the hymn of praise offered to him as thanksgiving and as glory.